Welcome to the Asset Mindset Podcast, where we don't wait for opportunities, we create them. I'm your host, Daniel Fielding, former Green Beret and author of The Asset Mindset. Today, we have a special guest, Nick O'Kelly, an author, Green Beret, and Night Stalker pilot. So, Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I am blessed to be here.
It's great to have you. And this isn't about motivation, it's about transformation. In each episode, we dive deep into the mindset, habits, and mission-driven thinking that turn everyday people into high performers and real-life warriors. And you are a perfect guest for this show. So I'm excited to dive in. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, man. Yeah, so I'll just start from the beginning. I grew up in Western Washington. Family of 6, so older sister, younger brother, younger sister. Grew up in a very strict Christian household, which had its pros and cons. You know, it taught us discipline at a very young age. But when I went to college, I kind of got a taste of freedom, and the guardrails were off from my parents, so went off the rails and didn't go to class, and partied and discovered all that scene. So dropped out of college, had to do something with my life. And that's when I went to the recruiter and signed the dotted line for an 18 X-ray contract. And yeah, I don't know do you want me to do the full background, full story?
Whatever you want to share, brother. I mean,
okay. Yeah, I'll just give you the quick overview. So go to SF. I was an 18 X-ray. I was fortunate to make it all the way through. Went to 1st Battalion, so out in Okinawa. Spent about 3 years on a team and then dropped my flight packet. So it was one of those decisions where, the catalyst was my son was born about 3 weeks prior to Philippines deployment, so like a 6-monther. And my wife was just kind of treading water during that deployment. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall long term, if I stayed in that lifestyle, that it would have negative repercussions on the family. So aviation looked like the answer. Similar culture from what I thought. Big boy rules, grow your hair out, unblouse your boots. But I was faced with the staunch reality once I got there that was not really the case. So spent about flight school was 2 years, then a year in the regular Army, went to Afghanistan with 3rd Combat Aviation Brigade. And then I dropped my 160th packet during that deployment because I was either getting out of the Army or I was making 160th. I was just fed up with the regular Army atmosphere and reactiveness and just lack of being proactive, I guess. So went to the 160th, and we'll get into the mental health stuff, I'm sure, later. But got to the 160th, spent the rest of my career there until I eventually got medically grounded and retired for reasons we can get into. But yeah, that's my overall career story. And then now I own a financial planning firm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, serving mostly veterans. And wrote the book Stigma, and just enjoying every step of the way, man.
I love it. You've been living with passion and purpose. It's great, man. So for listeners you don't know, when Nick's talking about an 18 X-ray contract, that 18 series is Special Forces. And so he came in off the street with a contract to go and become a Special Forces Green Beret. So what year did you do that in?
That was in 2010.
2010, okay.
Yeah, so I graduated the pipeline June 2012.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah. I'll after my time, I'm feeling old.
It's all good.
Yeah. It's still, you spend some time at Camp McCall, Camp Slappy, or SEER School.
Yeah.
So. Now, quick question on that. While I mentioned SEER School, when you went to 160th, because I went through SEER School with 160th pilots, did you have to go back through SEER School again?
Luckily, no. So since it was the same tier, SEER C, I was good to go. Yeah.
Nice.
Which actually kind of screwed me in flight. So every pilot goes to SEER School. But in flight school, it's kind of like baked into the pipeline. And since I didn't have to go, they kind of lost track of me. It was me and another former 160th crew chief, or maintainer, and they lost us. We were in a hold for 6 months. And then finally we reached out to the company and we were like, hey guys, when are we classing up? And they're like, we could tell it was oh shit, we overlooked these guys, And then lo and behold, we got classed up. But yeah,
Lesson learned, speak up. You got to be your
for
best
sure.
advocate, right?
100%, man.
And that
100%.
can bring us into some of the mental health stuff. Speaking
Yeah.
up when you have problems. Let's share stigma. And what's your message, brother?
Yeah, for sure. So, especially in these like special operations world and these high performing worlds, we're so good at just pushing and pushing and pushing, right? And doing everything it takes to be successful. And we're also very good at sacrificing for the better, the the good, right? The overall good. When it comes to ourselves, we suck at speaking up. We suck at advocating for ourselves, right? We are our own worst enemy in that regard. And I was definitely guilty of that. So when I transitioned to flight school, about a year after that, my daughter was born. So we had 2 kids under 2. My wife was active duty as well. So she's working 9 to 5. We're just in full on like survival mode, just, get through it and get it done. I'm in flight school, not sleeping. So it was just a bunch of like life stressors that added up, that I didn't see coming, right? I didn't have the mentality of like, man, maybe I should slow down or maybe I should do something to take care of my mental health, right? I was very ignorant to that because frankly, I'd never had any struggles ever. Like I thought I was immune to it, to be fair. I thought it was something that happens to weak people. I was very much bought into that attitude. But when it hit me, it humbled me real quick. And it was, it wasn't like a slow decline. I was sitting in class one day, literally learning about Black Hawk engines, nothing dramatic, nothing crazy. And I just got an invasive suicidal thought out of nowhere. It just punched me in the face. And then, my, this is all in retrospect, right? But my reaction to that initially, because I'm the type of dude that when something goes wrong, I want to fix it. Like I want to find a solution. I want to, figure out a way to not have it happen again. So that's what I did is I almost obsessed over the thoughts to like try to fix them, try to identify where they came from, and ultimately not have them come back. But what that did was that reinforced the thoughts over and over and over again. And to the point where it took hold of me, man. And I didn't have a solution for it, which was frustrating in itself. So,
Yeah.
but it's easy to fall down that path. So yeah, so that was the nexus of it was just a bunch of chronic stress that just cascaded all at once, and put me down.
Do you think you had analysis paralysis, as they say, when you started, you had this thought and then now you're trying to analyze it and focus on it? Did that create that spiral?
I think so. I think it was a little bit of that. And then also, as I mentioned, like just giving the thoughts so much attention, like unintentionally, but also maybe subconsciously is a better way to put it. Right. Like, and I was so mean to myself too, like I wasn't okay with the fact that this was happening to me, which is a normal reaction, but almost to the extreme where I was like, I have no excuse to be feeling this way. You know, I'm crushing it in flight school. I have a beautiful wife, beautiful kids. Everything is looking good. My life looks great. My life should be great. I have no excuse at all to be feeling this way. And that's how I was talking to myself, right? That's how I was viewing myself. So it took a big toll on, well, obviously that didn't help me get out of the pit, but it also took a toll on even just my self confidence, man. Like, whether other people noticed or not, which I don't think they did, but deep down, I knew it and I felt it. I felt that like self confidence shift of like, what is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
No, it does. I'm
Okay.
curious now, like, so, you talked about everything was going well. You have all these wonderful blessings in life,
Yep.
but stress was there and had these thoughts come into your head. What do you think were the stressors or the catalysts that created this?
I know a couple of them are the major ones were lack of sleep or inconsistent sleep, right? Like I was in flight school, there's days where you have to be at the bus at 4 a.m. when you're flying days, and then the next week you might be flying nights, so your circadian rhythm's all jacked up. Pair that with having kids at home who aren't sleeping, and babies at home and things like that. My wife was like running on fumes as well, because she's dealing with all this. And then the second part of that, which is my own doing, is the drinking, right? The drinking culture that is so prominent in the military, man. I was drinking to have fun, but then once this happened to me, I was drinking to hide it. I was drinking because it was the only thing that temporarily numbed the thoughts, and it became a habit, it just became something I do. Like I come home, whatever, get my workout in, and then start drinking. That was it, man. That was my like daily routine, if you will. So it's very dangerous,
Yeah.
but yeah, those factors for sure. So stress paired with that was just not a good combo.
No, absolutely. And especially when you talk about routine, well, you're in a negative routine. Like
Yeah.
you train hard, work hard, and now like, oh, I've been programmed. The habit is I'm going to have a drink to unwind. This is
Yep.
how I relieve stress. I hear people all the time like, hey, I just got to, I'm going to have a couple drinks, relax, unwind. And you're not. Your body, mentally, you think you're doing that to yourself. But physically, what's going on? Alcohol is a depressant. Widely known. Do your research, like,
Yeah.
come on, people, you can figure it out. It's out
Yep.
there. Lack of sleep, man, there's so many studies on how lack of sleep is just detrimental to the body.
Right.
So talk to me about the lack of sleep and what that was doing to you.
Well, I think also you add drinking on top of that, and your sleep, like, yeah, my sleep was inconsistent, but then you add that where your sleep is inconsistent and extremely poor quality, that's just like a recipe for disaster, especially when it's not just like a, one-time thing. Like that was an ongoing thing for, geez, I don't even know, years, like, so I was almost putting my body into forcing itself to work in overdrive, because I had I thought I was doing everything right, to be honest, like, because all my friends were doing the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
all my buddies that were with me were doing the same exact thing. They're on the same schedule as me. They're drinking just as much. Like, so it felt normal. It didn't feel like there was something abnormal about it. But looking back on it, it's amazing how I even functioned and my buddies functioned, right? Like, and you've been in that culture. Like that's very common, is you're highly functioning alcoholics, essentially, you get the job done, but then you're treating yourself like shit,
Yeah. Work hard, play hard.
as a result. Right, exactly. But
and
we don't look at the like negative consequences of that in the moment, We're just thinking we're having a good time or whatever. So
yeah,
yeah,
and
the sleep was a huge part though. The sleep, I mean, yeah, it's one of those, this is another thing that should have been apparent at the time, but it wasn't, because I thought I was bulletproof. I thought I was just 10 feet tall and bulletproof and could just keep going forever doing what I was doing. But looking back on it, man, I don't know how I did it. Like, cause today, if I don't get like 7 hours of sleep, I know, I'm a wreck.
yeah, it's one of those things that you don't realize how vital it is, because we've been taught and we were trained. Anybody in special operations, whatever branch, you embrace the suck. You just suck it
Yeah.
up. I'm hard. I can deal with it. I don't have sleep. I'm tired. I have some drinks. I'm hungover. Whatever. I'm gonna still run and do PT in the morning. I don't care if I throw. I can do it. I'll just push
Yep.
through. Push through. Push through. And that's fine when you're young and your body's kind of fresh still, and you can do that. But man, it takes its toll, and
Yeah.
you can only push through so long before you break. And I think that's what your story is that you're sharing, that is very impactful. And I'm proud of you for sharing it, because a lot of people don't want to, because we have that hard shell. Like, hey, I'm a Green Beret. I'm special operations. I'm just going to drive on. I don't care.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's not the way to live. Be hard, be tough. Great. Love that
Yeah.
stuff. But you also want to be the best you can be. And to do that, you got to take care of yourself mentally and physically.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's why I thank you for saying that, by the way, because first of all, talking about this and opening that can of worms was the hardest thing I ever did. Like bar none, man. Through all the selections, assessments, whatever, like me getting the courage to say, this is what happened to me. Um, yeah, dude, that was not easy. And I was terrified of how it would be received because of the culture we grew up in, you know? So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it really is like a cultural systemic problem, in my opinion, is the view that mental health is weakness, the view that, you know, mental health makes you a terrible person or weak or less than. Like that culture is so poisonous, and it keeps so many people trapped in the darkness for way longer than they need to be. You know, it did for me at least. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, man, because yeah, it wasn't easy to talk about, but grateful I am for sure.
Yeah, I'm grateful you are too. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that are grateful. And we're talking about, being special operators and embracing the suck and pushing through. But man, you regular people out there, civilians, it's life, man.
Yeah.
Life's going to push you. You're going to just, I'll suck it up. This is life. Like, no, you need to speak up. You need to get help. You need to work on yourself. You need to take care of yourself. So, someone that's maybe stuck right now, what would you tell them to do, whether they're in the military or not?
Yeah. First thing, the most impactful thing for me was once I realized the word grace and what that means towards myself,
Mm,
right? Like I talked about how I was negative self-talking to myself, and that just perpetuated this negative cycle and this depression, anxiety, whatever. This negative self-talk was so dangerous, and I didn't know that's what was keeping me stuck, but it was one of the driving factors that kept me in that negative place. So once I acknowledged the fact that this was depression, this was anxiety, and it wasn't easy, but once I accepted that was my reality, right? And I could look at it from I almost like an outsider's view of what was going on with me.
mm,
That was monumental for me. Being able to have the awareness that this is what's happening and it's okay. And you're not a piece of shit because you're dealing with this, you know? Like this is just your reality. Let's figure out a way through it instead of being so condemning towards yourself. So that would be the number one thing I would say, man, is don't be ashamed and don't be hard on yourself because it's happening, whether you like it or not, if it is, you know, and that's just going to make it worse. So, yeah.
No, I love that give yourself grace. Like, understand you're a person. You have
Right.
emotions. We all are human beings. You
Yeah.
know, we get happy, we get sad, we get mad, we get glad. I sound like a Dr. Seuss book. Yay!
Yeah.
People are going to love the podcast now.
Love it.
But no, seriously, I think the grace is so important. And you keyed on another thing that's very powerful: self-awareness. Like being objective, step back, look at your life. Talk to me about self-awareness.
Yeah. The most underrated character trait, in my opinion. Self awareness allows you to, I mean, not even on the mental health side. Let's just talk about like special operations and the value of being a self aware operator, right? Or special operations guy. Having the humility to realize that you're probably not the smartest guy in the room on every single subject matter, or maybe not any subject matter, right? There's always somebody else that's around you that can supplement what you're doing. And having that self awareness as not just as a soldier, but as a leader as well, realizing that as a '05 or something, you have first sergeants and sergeant majors that have been in the army for so much longer and seen so much things and have such a different perspective. Being self-aware enough to acknowledge your limitations and lean on those senior NCOs or those counterparts, whatever it might be, that is like the ultimate leadership trait, in my opinion, is acknowledging that you don't know everything and there's other people that can help you, you know, when there's a knowledge gap or an experience gap. um But then on the mental health side, that's it, man, is just acknowledging that you're going through something, not actively trying to pretend like everything's okay, because that's what we're taught to do. We're taught to hide it. We're taught to mask all the symptoms, pretend like everything's fine, and just move on. And I know we're beating a dead horse here, but that's so dangerous, man. That is so dangerous. And that's what keeps people trapped. And that leads to potential collateral damage, right? Whether it's, we all know the suicide rates are way too high. That's obviously the worst case scenario, but there's a spectrum of things that happen when a lot of us go through these mental health struggles, right? Whether it's like divorce, whether for me, it was just, I was a zombie of myself. I was not an active father. I was not a present father. I was a distant husband, and I was just going through the motions. There was no intention behind anything that I was doing at home. Everything, all of my energy was going into work and then selfishly trying to fix myself. So, I mean, it's valuable that I had that self-awareness, but I wish I would have had the courage to do something about it. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Well,
that's,
you did do something about it. That's why
yes,
you're here. That's right. You just wish you
touche,
did it sooner.
touche.
Because
I learned, yeah, I learned the hard way. And hopefully through my lessons, other people won't do the same thing I did. But yes, eventually I did get help, and I am extremely
I'm
grateful for
proud of
that
you
and
for that.
blessed.
And that's one of the things
Thanks,
I didn't
man.
want to let you beat yourself up a little bit too much
Yeah,
because, like, brother, what you're doing, like you said, our community to share these stories and to put them out there, it's scary because we're the
trust me, man.
badass, the American
Trust me.
badass, Green Beret, Special Forces, Navy SEALs, like,
Yeah,
you're supposed to be unbreakable,
yeah,
mentally tough, physically tough. And, we're people too. I joke with my kids all the time, especially my son who's now 18. He's like, oh, Dad, you were a Green Beret. And I'm like, I'm still a person. Like, I
right.
still have feelings.
Yeah,
My flesh still gets bruised. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I can take the pain, but I don't want to. Like,
right.
so.
Exactly. That's what I say is like, we're just normal people that did really hard things,
Yeah.
That's it, man. We're still human beings with emotions. Um, but yeah, no, it's been a journey for sure. I will say one of the most interesting things is seeing the culture perpetuated on like a bigger scale, right? So like when I go on a podcast or something and just seeing like the plethora of comments, like you got the one side that's like, you're a pussy type of thing. And then you got the one side that's like, I'm so grateful that you're telling your story. And that's almost like a snippet and a snapshot of our culture, right? Like we still have that half or whatever it is that's like mental health is weakness, you're a liability, you should have, you know, done that. You know what I mean? Like there's
Hmm.
still that dichotomy out there. And that's why I'm so like, that's why my book I think is so important for leaders to read, man, and for anybody, just perspective, just open your mind and soften your heart and learn some perspective.
Yeah, I can see where a lot of people still kind of have that because it's like, oh, don't be a crybaby. Yeah,
Right.
there's a difference between, oh, being a crybaby and, oh, poor me, and I get a victim mentality to, hey, I'm fucking tired. I'm stressed. I'm having these thoughts that I just want to be done and end things. Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah,
So I
for
think
sure.
people need to realize that, we live in the gray zone. A lot of times we joke about, right? Like, oh, we operate in the gray. It's not black. It's not white. Well, that's mental health.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You gotta accept it and don't break somebody down because of it. You should be there to lift them up, make them stronger, patch them up.
100%, man.
And I think that's what you're doing with your book. So let's get into that more. Share how the
Yeah.
process go. Obviously, it's based on you, but talk us through it.
Yeah, for sure. So it was took about 2.5 years from idea to completion. The nexus of it, the idea of it was when I was going through the medical retirement process. My little brother, who's also a Green Beret, um, yeah, right. Humble brag on my parents there. They did a good job, but we were hanging out, and this is the first time that I told him why I was actually getting medically retired, because I, even to that point, even when I was getting out of the army, I hadn't told anybody except for like my wife, because I was still just ashamed of it, and I didn't want to, yeah, didn't want to let the cat out of the bag. So I tell my brother, and I told him, it's, dude, like, I've been struggling with depression, suicidal ideations, whatever, for almost 5 years, you know? And he broke down, dude. Like, he was in his mind, and I could see it. He was looking at me like, dude, you could not be here talking to me right now. You know, like, we could have lost you, because that happens all the time, as we know. And we both just started bawling, like, it just happened. And he goes, "Why didn't you tell me, dude? Like, why the hell did you not tell me? I'm your brother. If anybody should know and could know, it's me." And I'm like, "Bro, like, even," I know. And I was like, "Even you, I couldn't risk telling." In my mind, I told myself I couldn't even risk telling you, because if you felt obligated to pick up the phone and call one of my buddies or call my command, that's that was my biggest fear, right? Was losing my career and losing everything. And he looked back at me and he was like, "Dude, that is a massive problem." And I was like, "Yeah, man, that's stigma. That's it." And that's where the idea started. And that's when I was like, I gotta get this out. I gotta put this on paper and just get my story out there. So so that was the beginning. And then the process, it started with me just word vomiting my entire story onto a Word document. Like, it was like 70,000 words of just like essentially my timeline and my story and what had happened to me. And then as it progressed, I found the right people. So I found a writing coach, and editor, and the whole team. And my writing coach basically helped me restructure it and turn it into a high quality book and an actual like product, other than just a memoir that I, word vomited on. So it was a really cool experience. I got to see, I'm impressed, very impressed with how much goes into writing a book. Like, I definitely underestimated it, because I thought, like, yeah, and you're familiar, but I thought, like,
Guilty.
once I had that Word doc, I was like, all right, we're good, submit it, and she was like, "No, dude, like, we have a lot of work to do before it's ready to do anything with." So, but it was an awesome experience, man. I brought in a couple other people as well to share their stories in it. So get some different perspectives on stigma and just how like deep rooted it is. Because, well, one, I didn't want everybody to just look at me as one example, and think I was like an outlier. I wanted it to hit home that this is like a systemic problem and an institutional problem. And then also brought my wife in. So she wrote a chapter, and she did it from her perspective, basically like what does a military spouse actually deal with, and what warning signs did she see in me that other people can potentially pick up on, even if their husband or significant other isn't talking about it or isn't being open about it, right? So one example of that is like, there was a phase where I read a book called Play by Stuart Brown, and it's a self-help book, but the intent behind it is like, you're just not enjoying your life. You're not doing things, that bring you joy. So find some hobbies that bring you joy. So I started hobby hunting hard, man. Like, I went to a pawn shop and bought a guitar and like tried to teach myself guitar, and like there was just a list goes on, but that's just one example, right? So like, that might be a small thing, and might seem like, oh, he's just trying to, learn something new and better himself. But the reality is, I was running from something by doing that, so small insights like that. And then the rest of the book process was really just me and my perfectionist, mentality, scrubbing the crap out of it and making sure not only like the timeline of all my medical stuff lined up, but ensuring that all the stories were accurate. I didn't have anything out there that was, OPSEC or anything like that. So it was just refining it, really. But yeah, that was my book writing journey, and now it's out, and I am extremely proud of it, man. We did it right. I'll say
Well,
that.
congratulations, and you
Yeah.
should be proud of it, and you should be
Thank
proud
you.
of all the work you're doing. And
Thank
I
you.
want to also let people know that if you want to know about the book, pause right now, go in the description, and you'll find a link. And go find Nick on Instagram, Facebook, all the places, and follow him, like, support him, subscribe to what he's doing. And of course, follow, like, subscribe to the Asset Mindset Podcast. We appreciate it because we're trying to do positive work, and every little thing you do to help support us and give us a like or a follow helps get us out there in the algorithm, and we can do more positive work. So we do appreciate you, and thank you for that.
Amen.
So getting back to Stigma and the book.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very much focused on military and the stigma in our community. But I know, like so many things in the world, your military stuff will transition to the civilian world. How does this
Yeah.
book also transition for civilians and maybe struggles that they're going through?
Yeah, great question. If you think back to even the reasons that I said I fell into mental health struggles, none of them were because of the Army, right? Sure, maybe the schedule, but it was two kids under two. It was driving hard in my career. It was having a wife who's working full time and drowning and trying to keep up the house. Like, that's not unique to the military. That is a very common thing to go through for, people in their whatever, late 20s, early 30s, doesn't or late 30s even now. So the lessons learned from this book, yes, they stemmed from my military career, or like they're surrounded by my military career, but every single one of them is applicable to whatever, a CEO, an entrepreneur, a doctor, an athlete. It doesn't matter. Like, life still happens to us, and you don't have to, like, that's a common misconception too, is like, I'm not allowed to feel this way because I don't have a silver star with valor, like, I didn't get blown up in Afghanistan, so I don't have it as bad as that dude, so it's not okay that I'm feeling this way. I struggled with that too,
Me too.
and
Honestly,
yeah,
brother, that same one,
it's
like,
right,
is, yeah.
because all we see today is these guys that go on these massive podcasts, which I'm not dinging them. It's awesome, right? I love it. And we're so blessed that we get to, but that's what we see is we see the guys that were, tier one guys who have two silver stars of valor and like did all this crazy shit. And we compare ourselves to them and we're like, I'm nothing compared to them. And I have no right to feel this way, and I'm sure, well, I know for a fact that civilians do that as well, right? Like, I wasn't in the military. I wasn't in special operations, so I can't relate to them. But the reality is, man, we're all living life. We're all just going through life. We all have stress in our career, right? It might be a different kind of stress, but that stress can still add up over time and can still put you in that bad place. So it's extremely applicable to anybody out there, man, and anybody can get something out of this book. Everybody will, I guess. And the reason I say that, it's not just for people who are struggling, it's also for people to have awareness and get perspective, right? So my goal with this book is that every new like second lieutenant has to read this book, because then a year later when they're dealing with that E3 who's on suicide watch and struggling, they have perspective of potentially why he's struggling, and they're not condemning him and acting like he's a piece of crap for what he's going through, right? They're more curious and approach it with more curiosity, um, which will go a long way for our culture and for changing our culture.
I like what you said there, adding curiosity. I
Yeah.
think people are not taking advantage of curiosity enough, like trying to
Yep.
understand what's going on. Because that's what curiosity
Yeah.
is trying to figure things out. Like, why is this happening? What's going on? I think that's very important and crucial. So that's a great word you used. And I hope the audience, you're picking up on that.
Thanks. Yeah. Cause it's almost the opposite of judgment, right? It's so easy to judge somebody based on one piece of data or another piece of data or whatever, or a snippet that you see, you know? But if you approach it with curiosity, let's see what's behind that. Like, I wonder the why behind what he said, or you know what I mean? And you can dig deeper and you can actually learn the reality behind it instead of just looking at a snippet and assuming the worst.
Yeah. So I want to dive in now, Nick, a little bit about you've seen all this, you've been through all this, you have all this experience. Here, we like to talk about mindset. So,
Yeah.
what shifted your mindset? Was there a catalyst, or what have you done, or like how have you got to the mindset where you're at now?
Great question. The irony behind all this is it started with actually getting on medication. So I know there's a stigma around that, right? It's frowned upon a lot, but the medication, and granted this took like 6 different anti-anxiety, depression drugs to finally like get to where I needed to be. But once I got on the right medication, what that did was allow me to have the space and clarity to analyze like so I was having dizzy spells, backtrack a little bit. I was having these dizzy spells just all day, every day, randomly. Like it just felt like the world was kind of off kilter. Like it was bizarre. And I didn't know it at the time, but I learned later that it was anxiety and panic attacks. My body was just fight or flight mode, just working overdrive. But what the medication did was it turned those dizzy spells into very like situational dizzy spells. So if I was at like a baseball game or football game, or like at a pumpkin patch with my family, or even in like formation, like basically any situation that I couldn't control the outcome, they would happen. So
Hmm.
I was able to bring that back to my psychologist and tell her, hey, now I know when it's happening, now that I'm on this medication. And she was able to diagnose me based on that. So that was the starting point. That was the catalyst. Well, backtrack. The first catalyst was me actually admitting that I had suicidal ideations, right? It was me getting the balls to be like, yes, this is what has happened the last couple of years, and this is where I'm at now. Because without that, they would have had no basis to, treat me at all. So that was first step. Second step was getting on medication, which allowed me to really like look at what the problem was and figure out when it was happening. And then the third step, which is ironic because all this meditation, self-help books, journaling, fitness, health, diet, all those things that I had tried before when I was in the storm didn't do anything for me, man. Like nothing. And they were almost more frustrating than they were beneficial because I wanted them to work and I was putting everything into it and it didn't work. So, but once I got to this point where I'm on medication and getting a little more stable, then implementing those tools started to work. They started to get me out of that pit slowly and surely. And then up until today, I've since tapered off the meds and now I have routine, man. And you talked about it earlier, but routine is so important. Like I cold plunge every single day when I wake up, get up to my office, I do a 10-minute journaling exercise, and then that's how I start my day. And like, granted, there's dropping off kids at school in between there and all that, but like those two things like set the stage for the rest of my day. And they may seem small, but they are so, I can tell if I skip a cold plunge or if I skip journaling and just jump straight into it. Like I feel significantly different and I can tell the impact that it makes on my day to day. So yeah, man, it's just little things like that. And then on the mental health piece, I'm still not bulletproof. I still have my days that, maybe a intrusive thought comes in and hits me and I'm like, huh. But now this goes back to the grace thing. Now I don't say, what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you thinking like that? You're not allowed to think like that, right? Now I look at it and I say, huh, that was weird. I've been here before. I know it's going to pass. That's my mentality now when it happens. And so it's a lot of little things that make a massive difference, man.
Yeah, that's huge growth right there. Cause I think
Yeah.
we're keying in on something very important right now where it's people get stuck in the storm. They have this bad thing come in and now you're stuck. It's like you're walking in the storm. If there's a rain cloud and you keep, looking up at it and walking where it's going instead of just stop. Oh, it's a storm. let it pass. Let the weather
Yeah.
system move through. Like you're going to have rainy days. You're going to
Right.
have a blizzard. You're going to have sunny days. All these things are part of the human experience. So
Yeah.
that's where, again, your grace statement, I think, is so powerful. Give yourself grace. All right, you're in a storm. Heck, it's a tornado. Hang tight, hold on,
Yep.
realize the tornado is not going to stay on top of you forever. It's going to pass.
Yep.
And we talked about self-awareness too. I think once you notice that, and like you talked about, you have that awareness now, you can shift your thinking. You can be like, oh, yeah, I'm in a storm, but it's going to pass. So I'm going to now think about this, or I'm going to look at
Yes.
that, or I know that when I do this, this helps me, or heck, I'm going to go take another cold plunge,
Yeah.
and snap
Yeah.
myself out of it. Because when you get in cold water, I've done a cold plunge more than once,
Oh
and
yeah. It's
it's
brutal.
not much you're thinking about when you get in there other than that ice cold.
100%. And I've actually done that before. Like I was just sitting in my office one day and I was like, man, I don't know why I feel so off. And I was like, screw it. I'm just going to go down. And I did a 3-minute cold plunge. That's all it takes. And afterwards I'm like, all right, I'm good. It's wild, man, because to be honest, I didn't believe in all that stuff before I did it. And then I started watching some Andrew Huberman and, getting into the science, and I was like, I'm going to give it a try. And it is a massive impact. It's pretty cool. But yeah, you're right, dude. It's so easy to get caught in the storm and get stuck in the storm. And I, I think we get trapped there just because we don't know how to get out. That's first of all, right? We don't know how to get out. We don't know if we can speak up and get help for it. We either are ashamed of it or scared of it or whatever. And then we're assholes to ourselves, which just is going to keep you in there. It's going to keep you in that storm. But yeah.
Absolutely. So we're keen in on habits. You talked
Yeah.
about cold plunge. You talked about journaling. What other habits have you seen or found that you can share with people that really are game changers for growth?
Yeah. Great question. For me, as an entrepreneur, time blocking has been my best friend. So I know that's like not necessarily mindset, but it is mindset in a roundabout way, right? Because so I run a financial planning firm and I'm doing this. I have doing this mental health advocacy too, right? So I'm almost like dual hatting right now. And I have to time block very intentionally to keep both things successful and keep both things moving forward. So, for example, my Mondays is like Monday morning is catch up on emails for an hour. And then the rest of the day is building content and knocking out all the content I need to do for the week. And then the rest of my week, Tuesday through Thursday, is financial planning. It's meeting with clients, getting in the weeds, building financial plans, doing all of that. And then my Friday is a flex day. So my Friday is, hey, if you got all your work done, you can go enjoy your day. If there's still work to do, you're catching up on work for the week so that come Monday, all you have to do is catch up on emails and jump into that content. So that's actually, it's a massive thing for me because it dictates my schedule, but it also helps with my mindset because then I know what's going to happen, right? I don't see like all these tasks as like, crap, I'm never going to get to these, or I don't know when I'll get to these. I dedicate my time so that it's built in and structured in that way.
Now, that makes a lot of sense because I'm sure there's a lot of people that just shoot from the hip, so to
Yeah.
speak. You're just trying to put out the next fire. Or like we talk in the military, hey, what's the next 20-meter target? Don't worry
Yep.
about that 300 one. The 20-meter target's going to get
Yep.
you, and you're constantly doing that. And that makes things really difficult. And you're operating at such a higher stress level than you need to. When it's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of the 20-meter target, but then I'm going to hit this one, and this one on these days, or whatever it may be.
Right.
So structure, man, that's good stuff. Any other habits?
Yeah. Cause let's see, gym, obviously well, maybe not obviously, but I go to the gym, at least 3 times a week. So I do give myself a little more grace than I used to on that, but 3 times a week is like my benchmark for going to the gym. I'm typically able to like work those in at lunchtime, which is very fortunate that I'm able to do that. I know not everybody has that opportunity, but if I start slipping on the gym, Again, man, I can tell my mindset starts slipping. So it's just all those things being consistent and having that routine is so valuable to, at least to a guy like me. You know, I'm wired that way that it works really well for me.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that one. And
Yeah.
I think this all goes back to self-awareness once again.
Yep.
Like, you need to pay attention to your body. You need to pay attention to your thoughts. You're going to see the differences. You've
Yeah.
talked about, hey, the cold plunge, I notice a difference if I don't do it. If you don't go to the gym, you notice a difference. If you're not structured, you notice a difference. So pay attention to your lives, people.
Yeah.
Look around yourself. Look at yourself. Be objective. Step back. Because I think that's so powerful to be able to, all right, I'm going to separate myself for a moment from what I'm going on and imagine if I was on the outside looking in. That's an
Yeah.
incredible exercise that I've found for people. And when I've worked with people, talking to them like, all right, you shared your story. Well, what if a friend shared that same story? What would you tell them? Wow. The shift is like,
Yeah.
oh crap, I have all these answers. I know what I tell my friend, but when it's yourself,
Yep.
man, that's the struggle.
Yeah, man. That's a good perspective exercise. You know, like I have a I have a business coach, and his whole thing is perspective, right? Like if I have something that I'm frustrated about or something that I'm whatever struggling with or just I don't know, anything that's not going as I want it to, right? I'll bring it up to him and he'll bring in a totally new perspective into it and try to flip it on its head, right? And say, hey, sure, you got this going wrong, but what about this that's going right? Or what about this aspect of what's going wrong that you don't know? You're assuming the worst, but it could turn into a good thing, right? And that's I've been proven wrong by him, or he's been proven right so many times through that. And it's almost like, damn, man, like the perspective thing is so easy to overlook, but there's so much value there, man, when you're able to that's basically what he does, right? He has the objective third person view and he's looking at what I'm going through and with an unbiased, well, maybe a little biased, but generally unbiased point of view, right? And he's able to give me that perspective that I need at the time to see the good things in everything. So it's been really cool. And it's all part of the journey, right? It's all part of learning and optimizing everything in life.
Absolutely. So when do you feel you first were able to do that, like shift your perspective?
It's To be fair, it's still an ongoing process. I mean, I made massive growth once I got out of the army and started being vulnerable about this stuff, about the mental health stuff. I just leaps and bounds of where I was 5 years ago, you know, because I would have never in my wildest dreams talked about this in a public forum to any extent, right? So that's been a huge perspective shift. Is just the power in the vulnerability, the power in just kind of putting all my deep dark secrets out there, you know, like take it or leave it, either love it or hate it. Um, but then in business specifically, that's still an ongoing process. I'll you know, I'm still refining that aspect of my life where it's very easy to, especially coming from the special operations background. We put really high standards on ourselves and on others, which is a good thing in my opinion. But when that standard isn't met or there's something that gets in the way of meeting that standard, we're also very slow to forgive or slow to analyze it from an objective view, right? And we take it personally. So that's been my biggest mental shift while working with him, is just that, working on that perspective. And he my wife actually tells me this all the time. She says, Nick, like, well, maybe not anymore, but she used to. Nick, we're not Green Berets. We're not special operations guys. Like, stop treating us like that, you know? Because I'd get home and I'm like, why the hell is there clothes on the floor? Like, why are the dishes not clean, you know, to my kids or something? And she's just like, dude, chill out. Like, it's okay, you know? You need to stop treating us like we're your coworkers. So
Yeah.
that was good. That was really good advice for her. And I'm glad she has the audacity to tell me that, you know?
Yeah, I got to, I don't know, eat some humble pie there too, because my
Yeah,
wife has said the same thing to me.
it's
Like,
so
we're
funny.
not special. My son, same thing. Like, I got a farm here. I work the farm. It's raining and it's cold. And, they're freezing cold and they want to go inside. I'm like, no, just suck it up. Come on. We got to
Yeah,
get this fence done. And they're like, we're not Green Berets, right? And I'm like, doesn't matter. This still needs to get done.
yeah. That's not an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, man. It's so funny. It's so
Oh yeah,
funny.
we can be really thick up here sometimes,
For sure. For
Target
sure.
target fixated, right? Like they
Yep.
say.
Exactly. Yep. You get in the mode, man. You don't want to stop.
Yeah, man. We got a task here. We got to finish it.
Exactly. Yep.
At-
Yeah.
no
So,
matter what the cost.
yep. I've noticed that's like a ongoing theme, is just that. Just like, oh, which is honestly, it's a really, really good trait. And we are blessed to have that. It's just when you take it too far, that's when that's when it's not okay.
Yes. Or we then project that onto other people.
Right.
We got to realize everybody's different.
Yep.
Like different people have different breaking points.
Yeah.
Some people can withstand the cold better. My wife gets
Yeah.
migraines from the cold. What am I going to be, a jerk and be like, oh, just suck it up and get a migraine and be miserable?
Right.
Like, no, then I'm an asshole. Like, I got to
Right.
wake up, we need to do that. And that is back to curiosity. Why is
Yes.
someone feeling this way? Understanding their why. If you are not taking the time to do that, then you're not being an asset to somebody else and you're just
Yeah.
being an ass. So
That's a good way to put it. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Curiosity and then empathy too,
Yeah.
putting yourself in their shoes. Cause I was actually guilty of that. Exactly what you just said. Like when I was going through the storm, my wife would get a headache or like, she'd be like, I'm tired. And I would just look at her and be like, drink water, or go to sleep earlier. You know what I mean? Like almost like no shit, and it's just such an ass, man. Just like you said, like I didn't think two steps or even one step beyond, my statement before saying it. So it's, I was guilty of that
sometimes
for
we
sure.
just react. So, but
Yep, exactly.
anyway, I want to change up one more thing. I definitely want to hit before we start wrapping up because we're almost at an hour. I do want to talk about being alone and feeling alone because I think with stigma or what we're at a dark place, civilian, military, whatever you are, if you're in a dark place, you feel alone.
Yes.
Please address that and share with us how to deal and cope.
Man, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It is the most isolating thing ever, I think. Being depressed and feeling like you have no worth. I legitimately thought I was going crazy. I legitimately thought that like I could not control my thoughts anymore, which I couldn't to some extent, right? They were controlling me. But I thought I was going crazy. And I thought it was not okay what was going on with me, but it was also not okay to tell anybody about it, as we've talked about multiple times. So the resulting factor of that, or the result of that, is there's so many of us that do the exact same thing simultaneously, man. At the same exact time that I was struggling and thought I was alone, there were multiple other people, I guarantee it, next to me, in class even probably, who were doing the same exact thing and thought they were entirely alone again. So I had this breakthrough moment when this is similar to my brother's timelines. This is just after I told my brother, where I kind of was like, screw it, I'm getting medically retired. Like, I'm just going to start being open about it. And my neighborhood was a bunch of like military dudes. You know how every military base is. My neighborhood had, but it wasn't like 160th guys. So it was cool. It was like other, guys in different units who did different jobs, infantry guys, UAV guys, so it was kind of a cool like dynamic. But there were about 8 of us one night hanging out by a fire pit, and we were drinking, but I had just enough liquid courage that I was like, I'm gonna bring this up, and I'm gonna see what it, what the barometer is on this, because we were pretty close, and I I let the cat out of the bag and I said, hey guys, like, I'm actually getting medically retired for this, for depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever you want to call it. They lumped it all together. I kid you not, man. There were 8 people there. They were all CW2s or E7s and above. So it was like more senior guys in the Army. Every single one of them had a story that they told me. I'm not kidding you. Went around the circle. Every single one of them could relate. Different jobs, different career paths, different ranks, completely different everything, units and everything. And every single one of them could relate. And I was like, holy shit. Like, this is not, first of all, it's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a massive problem that we don't even know exists or we don't even talk about, you know? So you are absolutely not alone. Like, I would argue that this is more common than not common to go through something like this, you know, whether it might be a different extreme of the spectrum, which is good, right? You might not get to the point where you're suicidal and God bless you, and that's awesome. But like, it's common, and you are absolutely not alone. You might think you're alone, but you're not. Like, it's a widespread problem, and it doesn't mean anything negative on the person or the individual. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great moral to the story is you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
no matter what struggle you're having, somebody else in the world, yeah, there's a little variation in unique situations, but if you're dealing with the loss of a loved one,
Yeah.
well, guess what? How many people have lost their dad? There's widows. There's widowers out there.
Yeah.
There's parents, man, that have lost children. Like, people have dealt with loss, and
Yeah.
you're not alone. Or fear. If you're dealing with fear and you're feeling alone, to like fear of telling people or sharing, you know,
Yeah.
understand, you know, just find somebody you trust and share with them. Because
Yep.
just like Nick's saying, you know, you're probably not alone. More likely you're not. And you're definitely not alone with an experience or struggle in life, because we all struggle. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. No, it's so true, man. And it's one of the things that I want this book to accomplish is that, right? I want people to, because my brother read it, and he hasn't really dealt with depression or anything like that, which is amazing, right? Like, he hasn't gone through it to the extent that I did. He's had a little bit, but nothing crazy. And even when he read it, he was like, dude, I could, like, even though I hadn't been at that pit, I could still relate to every single chapter in your book. Like, there was something in it that I got out of it, you know, whether it was like perspective or just the journey of, you know, living life with kids and a wife, you know what I mean? Like, just this life journey that we're all on. So yeah, man, and you're like, it's such a dangerous way of thinking you're alone. And it's easy to think that.
Yeah. Don't be fooled. Don't let your
Yeah.
ego and your mind fool you. You are not alone. And
Yeah.
I love this. Break the silence, redefine strength.
Yeah, brother.
You know, if
It's
you're
all
alone,
about,
break the
yep,
silence.
exactly. It's all about that cultural shift. And one last thing that I want to say is, if somebody's out there struggling, as hard as the decision is to speak up, because it was one of the hardest decisions that I ever made, I will stand by that probably the rest of my life. It was also the most important decision I ever made, and it allowed me to be who I am today, right? Like, despite all of the reasons I didn't want to get help and all of the fears that I had surrounding it, everything worked out for good. You know, everything fell into place how it was intended to, whether you're religious or not. I am. So I do believe, like, God had a role in everything that happened to me, and he's using me now because of this. But like, all of those fears and all of those stigmas that kept me from getting help they were lies. They were lies that the devil or whatever you believe in was planting in my head, and plants in a lot of our heads.
No, that's powerful. Like, it was
Yeah.
the scariest thing you ever did, but it was the best thing you ever did.
Right.
And, you know, when you have fear, fear is an opportunity to be courageous and be
Love
brave.
that. Love that, dude.
You know,
That is,
yeah,
that should be
you
on a
got to
bumper
watch
sticker.
one of my episodes with Tony Blauer. We talk about fear, and, you know, Fear is false expectations appearing real. You can't do anything amazing or incredible or achieve without fear. There's fear of failure, fear of
Yeah.
embarrassing yourself, fear of whatever. But when you break through that and you conquer that fear, there is no better feeling.
Yeah.
Everything that's rewarding, like you're a testimony to it right now. You just said it on the show. It was the best thing you ever did. It changed your life for the better. So if you're out there and you're at a moment of fear, understand this is an opportunity. Fear is an opportunity. You get to
Amen.
be courageous. You get to be brave. You get to be game changing and change your life and change the lives of people around you too. It's an incredible thing. So don't let fear stop you. Do not do that.
Amen.
And again, Nick, if there's anything else you want to share or say before we go, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm proud of you, brother, because
Thanks,
not
man.
everybody has the backbone to do it. And you had the strength to come forward, and that's an amazing thing. So close us out. Take us
Awesome.
to anything you want to say.
No, thanks for having me. First of all, I love what you're doing as well. I think your platform is also going to help so many people, man, and already is. And then, man, I just want to shameless plug my book again. It matters, and I am proud of it, and it will change lives. It all it takes. The only thing holding that back is it getting in the right hands right now. So, yeah, go buy my book, Stigma. It's on Amazon, anywhere you can buy a book, but it will make a difference.
Yes. And then leave a review, and definitely leave us a review, comment, like, and subscribe. Go in the description. You can find all the links to get the book, get my book. It's all out there. And thank you again for being here. Keep doing positive things. Do us a positive and give us a like and a follow. And more than anything, don't ever forget, own your power.